Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, May 26, 2026. 26th on 2026. I just thought about that right there. We do have rain out there, everybody. We had some rain this weekend. It's been an interesting pattern. You know, you talk to some people and they feel like it rained all weekend. Other folks are like, I didn't get barely any rain. And that really has been the nature of this. But I will tell you, everybody got something over the last 4 days. It's just a matter of how much. And right now, we've got some big-time storms moving through the foothills. An area that saw heavy rain yesterday, north of Hickory, they're getting some pockets of heavy rain. But right now, this storm moving through Lincolnton, down to Gastonia, Dallas, up towards Hickory, Maiden, Newton area. This is a pretty good little surge of gusty winds, a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning. So that's moving through pretty quickly. We've been tracking that on our tower cam over in Dallas. I'll quickly show you that. It got kind of enveloped by the shelf cloud, we call it. But you can see the rain falling out of that shelf cloud below it, and then ahead of it, that's the rush of cool air. So we're getting some good rain out there in parts of the area. That's a look at the rain shaft from that storm. So if you're out there, you're going to get a deluge as this moves through. They are moving, though. That's the good news. They're moving about 35 miles an hour. So if you get rain right now, it's not a washout. It'll be in and out fairly quickly. Charlotte's dry now, but we'll see this rain move back in later this evening. You can see that batch of rain back to the west. So we're certainly going to get in to some more rain this evening. And believe it or not, today might be the wettest day of the entire week because things are going to actually start to dry out as we get into the next couple of days. We still have a pretty big plume of moisture moving into the region. But a crazy stat that I was thinking of today, and I double-checked, but today is the 6th day in a row with measurable rainfall in Charlotte. And why is that substantial? Well, that's the first time we've been that wet since last August, which ironically is also the last calendar month that was above average for rainfall. So it's been 8 months. The number one question I've been getting this weekend, what does this do for the drought, right? It helps. It's a huge dent, but it is not eliminating the drought. Remember, this is an 8-month drought. So we didn't wipe it out in one weekend. We did not. It's going to take us a while. But we knocked maybe 20% to 25% of the drought out with this. So it was substantial. And if this pattern holds true, we could knock even more of it out over the next week or so. As long as we stay at average or above, the drought will not worsen. We'll get the official drought monitor coming up on Thursday. It'll have Tuesday to Tuesday rainfall, which will include all of this rain. So we're likely going to see some categories go down. We're still going to be in drought, but we'll see the exceptional, maybe the extreme kind of go away in spots and go back to severe and moderate drought is what I think will happen because it's a long haul. This water is going into your grass. It's going into your bushes, your trees. It's soaking into the soil. Only a little bit is getting into the area lakes and streams right now. So we're going to need more substantial rainfall. So tonight, scattered showers and storms continue. Temperatures, again, barely falling below 70. It is super sticky out there. Tomorrow, a lot more sunshine means a very hot, humid day with mid and upper 80s and a 40% chance of pop-up storms. Unlike the last couple of days, these are going to be a lot more isolated. Kind of think of Sunday and Monday when we had sunshine at times and then we saw a pop-up shower storm. You'll see that reflected in our future cast. Look at tomorrow. Most of the day is dry. I mean, 4 o'clock, we've got a broken line of showers and storms there, but also a lot of sunshine. Same story for Thursday. We wake up dry weather most of the day, a pop-up shower or storm there. So you get the idea. It's the rain chances are actually trending down for the rest of the week. They're not going away completely, but they are trending down. This plume of moisture to me is really fascinating. It's what I would call an atmospheric river because it's got a deep connection into the tropics. You could see that plume of moisture coming up, but for the Carolinas, it's not directed right here. In fact, we've got a backdoor cold front that's going to come in this weekend, and that's going to kind of push all of the moisture off to the south. So when we zoom in on the Carolinas, you see the deep tropical moisture to our south, but look at the dry air that moves in over the Carolinas. So that's reflected in the 7-day rainfall forecast where the heavier rain is in Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, not so much in North Carolina. So while we'll keep the rain chances in the forecast, the heavier amounts will be to the south. I mean, if that's set up over us, boy, we would have really put the hammer down on this drought, we probably would have knocked half of it out in a week. Here's a look at our rain chances over the next 7 days. Again, the highest chance with that backdoor front Friday into Saturday. The bigger story beyond this is going to be the cool down. I mean, June is the beginning of summer meteorologically, right? It's supposed to be hot and humid, right? 84 and 64 are the averages next week. We're going to probably be in the low to mid 70s. So talk about a cool pattern for early June. Here's a look at your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Look at the cool down going into the weekend. That Friday, Saturday front is the backdoor cold front. We almost get wedged in a little bit, but with such dry air. Look at next week. I mean, that's the first 5 days of June. And we've got low in mid 70s and morning lows in the 50s. I mean, I've never turned my AC off in early June, but you might get to do that next week. All right, so stick around. Tim's coming up. We're going to talk more about the flooding, this pattern, and whether or not we're in drought, out of drought, who got rain and who didn't. That's all coming up in 2.5 minutes.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock, crawl space, basement, and foundation repair experts serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock, stabilize, enhance, protect.
Welcome back, everybody. Tim Buckley joins me as we start the day after Memorial Day. I was saying the date earlier, Tim, and I was like, it's the 26th of 2026. It's weird. May 26th, 2026. It sounds so weird coming out of my mouth. I'm like, we're already there. But, hey, Tim, a lot to talk about, actually, today. We had a lot of weather. Finally, some real spring-like weather. Some of this was good news. I know some folks got too much rain, But I
Yeah.
know you deal with this. I saw you watering your rose bush. You were one of the folks that got kind of missed. I think sometimes everybody thinks like the weather they experienced happened everywhere. And as we know this weekend, there were pockets
Right.
of very heavy rain, Tim, but there were still a lot of areas that didn't get nearly as much rain as other folks.
Absolutely, and so you bring up my example there. For me, up through today, had less than an inch of rain still since last Thursday. So close to an inch, but not quite there. Well, sure enough, I put out that little video, and now we got about 2.5 inches of rain in 2 hours this afternoon. So thank me, everybody. But it is amazing, Brad, the discrepancies across the area. And I know Charlotte has had a lot. South Carolina's just gotten dumped on.
Yeah.
But other places near Durham, especially, really the coast actually too. If you were at Oak Island this weekend or something like that, not a drop of rainfall in Brunswick County. They've had kind of just beautiful weather. So depends.
For us here, there was a lot of rain, but I was telling James, like, it was such a good timing for the rain at times because you could still get a lot of stuff done outside. Like, I went to the Charlotte FC game. I went to the Speedway on Sunday. I went to the pool yesterday. And I still had 3.5 inches of rain this weekend. I was able to do all those activities because the rain just timed out, like either in the morning or in the evening, or there were enough breaks, Tim, that you could still get stuff done outside as long as you planned accordingly. And as you mentioned, I think one of my posts this weekend about the rain, I had 2 comments back to back that just is the epitome of scattered storms. One person said they hadn't seen a drop of rain. The other person said this is a much more of a washout of a weekend than I expected. It was like the epitome of what we deal with. In the same thread, somebody thought we didn't get any rain and someone else thought it rained all the time. So that's just the nature of these kind of setups. And it's frustrating to communicate. As accurate as I think the forecast was, it is a tough thing to communicate to everybody.
It's very tough, and one of the things meteorology is still worst at is probably hour by hour of pop-up storms and locations. We're not the best at that just yet. And for a lot of the Carolinas, we had that huge wedge of cold air Thursday, Friday. I guess it was Friday, Saturday mostly. That kind of robbed us of a lot of the heavier rain because the heaviest stuff stayed on the south edge of the wedge where it was hotter. So there are all sorts of reasons, but right now things are rocking and rolling again. I saw you guys tracking these storms out in the foothills. Impressive clouds, impressive shelf clouds to be specific. It's one of those good cloud watching days again in the Carolinas.
Yeah, those ones to our west, Tim, I know you were tracking them as well. That was kind of in an area that hadn't seen much rain today so far, so it's kind of uninterrupted moisture and things to feed off ahead of it. So it's got a nice looking shelf cloud. We're looking at the Freedom Boat Club, which is looking across Lake Norman. We can kind of see it, but we caught a good view of this from our tower cam earlier. This was the shelf cloud moving right at us in Gaston County. So this is so. I love these clouds, Tim, because people look at that and they go, "Ooh, that's really scary." Well, that leading edge cloud is warm, humid air clashing with the cold air from the outflow, and then behind it you can actually see the rain shaft. So there's always a lag. Like the wind comes with that shelf cloud, and then the rain comes in right after it. So really cool feature. Looks scarier than it actually is, but people love to see these.
I sure do. And we haven't had a lot of them in the spring season, but usually they look worse than they actually are, right? I had a couple people asking me, are we going to get tornadoes out of this thing? It's like, no, there's none of that energy in the air today. It's just that cooler. It's kind of more like a mini cold front than anything else. And you probably know this. You could be just sitting on the porch or playing outside, and then that gust of wind kind of comes, the temperature drops, and you might have a few minutes before the bottom falls out. That's what you're experiencing. And unless you have a nice tower cam, you don't always get a good view just like that. But that's what they look like, and we saw some good ones in Greensboro too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so let's talk about this crazy, scattered nature of this stuff. You guys finally got it today. I mean, it just goes to show you that these have been efficient rainfall makers today. The atmosphere is absolutely saturated right now. We got over 2 inches of precipitable water. So these are very efficient rainfall makers, I like to say, Tim. And that's, I think, why you guys got such a big dose from that one storm. But some of these pockets in the mountains and foothills did cause issues over the weekend, especially yesterday. We saw flash flooding around the Henderson County, Buncombe County area. We also saw flash flooding north of Hickory. And those are a couple areas that are always susceptible to flash flooding, Tim, because of the terrain. But they also got repeatedly hit by storms. and it did produce these crazy pictures we saw out of they say Bat Cave, but James and I were debating how close this actually was to Bat Cave. I think it was actually further upstream towards, was that Girton area, upper Henderson County. So there was some flash flooding. And Tim, we know this area was heavily damaged by Helene. It might have also caused some of these issues because the stream beds, there's still temporary roads and bridges in some of these locations. So when they get heavy rain now, it just causes anxiety, but it also kind of disrupts the temporary low water crossings that they have in that area.
I think we heard a lot when you talk to folks or interview them today, a lot of people just talking about that anxiety, or you could call it PTSD, whatever you'd like to call it. That's a real thing. Storm anxiety, we reference a lot of times. If you go through something bad, and then something similar, you're going to have those fears the next time around. And so you really feel for these folks, and that's a tough scene to see. And I know there are a number of roads that are going to need new repairs now. That's the bad side. I also heard, some, like Chimney Rock, for example, they kind of said, hey, we're okay. Our new road is doing all right. So there is a little bit of that, but this is probably the biggest test so far since Helene came through western North Carolina.
Yeah, and James, I think we and I were talking about this. I think there was a lot of anxiety because there was a lot of bad information out there. I think the North Carolina Emergency Management actually put out, I think that's why Chimney Rock, the town, put out a post. There were people, unfortunately, this happens on social media, posting Helene videos and claiming it was from this weekend. And so that sent off a whole nother... people were, oh my gosh, is Chimney Rock okay? Is this okay? And I think that's why you saw the State Office of Emergency Management as well as Chimney Rock have to post and say, hey, we're fine. And I checked the water gauges on the Broad River. The water came up to him, but it really wasn't a big deal for them. The water looked like it. I don't know where that water went, but it might just tell you how dry it was, because downstream it didn't look like there was much of a crest of anything that came downstream from there.
Well, as we've been saying, there should be a lot of room for this water to go. Being in such a bad drought that we've been in, either D3 or D4, everyone's in a tough spot, even with the recent rainfall. But it's going to be interesting, Brad. I know a lot of the water that you guys get down in there in Charlotte comes from up there in the mountains. It'll be interesting to see how the lake levels respond. If at all, hopefully some. They should do something, I would imagine, in the days to come. But it'll be interesting to see kind of where this water all shakes out, what the true drought impact is, because it's not just rainfall, it's also the water levels, it's also the societal impact, all of those things. And we'll get a new map in 2 days and see what that kind of tells.
Yeah, we were just talking about this. This is footage, I think, from the Raleigh area, taking a look at some of the area lakes there. The first thing I did, Tim, I started looking at the area lakes today to see how much they came up. Because there's always a lag, right? The water's got to run off. We had all that flooding in Catawba County, I think it was yesterday and Saturday, Alexander County, Caldwell County. Lake Hickory is just south of there. Their water level spiked pretty good. It's actually up around 97.5. Full pound is 100. But what's crazy is Lake Norman, right? Lake Norman is the biggest lake. I'll show you Lake Norman here real quickly. So that blue line is the current water level, Tim. You can see a little jump there. All those other lines are the last 4 years of water level. So you can see it came up, Tim, but look how below average it still is. And if you're curious, that big spike, that red spike off to the right, any guess what that is? 2024.
Oh, it's got to be Helene.
Yeah, so that's Helene right there, that spike. But look, at it, the water level came up, Tim, but not much. We're still way below where we were the last 4 years at this time. So there's some recovery, but I think people will be shocked. It's not as much as you think. It was several inches of rain. Your plants used a lot of this. A lot of the ground soaked this up. We needed this. So there's a lot of room, not just in the lakes, but also in the ground, the moisture levels of the ground and the plants. I felt like I could hear my grass slurping water this weekend when it was falling, because they were just soaking up every drop they could get.
Yeah, and that does tell the story, doesn't it? So I guess we'll wait and see if any more trickles down after today, and we can kind of do a final assessment by Thursday or Friday once this thing's all over with. But hey, 6 days in a row of some rainfall. not a bad thing, but we really need a lot more. And I guess we'll still be in this pattern somewhat of cooler weather and maybe unsettled weather into June. We'll see what happens. But 6 days in a row, that's pretty impressive, and we'll take it.
I looked that stat up today and I was like, wow, the beginning of August, and lo and behold, May is going to end up above average rainfall in Charlotte, which would be the first time since when? Last August. So there's some similarities to the last time we had this. But, for everybody I've gotten this question a bazillion times at the Speedway, everywhere, oh, how are we with the drought? This graphic tells you everything you need to know. This thing started 8 months ago, Tim. We didn't end it in a weekend, right? We definitely knocked a big dent in it in some areas. By my calculation, maybe 20% reduction in some of our deficits in our area. That means we still got 80% to go. So like you said, on Thursday, I'll be really curious to see what D levels have dropped. I do expect some. Exceptional might go away. There might be some areas that go from extreme to severe or severe to moderate. But I would say everybody's still going to be in drought. It's just going to depend on the level.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a long-term problem. And no one's going to want to hear that, especially if they had flooding over the weekend, right? You're not going to want to hear that, oh, we're still in the drought. And that's okay. I guess you don't have to listen, but that's just the reality of the situation. We're getting good rain. Hopefully we can get some more. But it is amazing. You almost start to question yourself. It's like, wait a second, can we actually get good rain anymore? But this is going to prove that, yes, this is normal. We can do it. We have more rain in 2 hours here than we had in the whole last month and a half. So I'm hopeful again.
I think as weird as this weekend has felt, this is kind of what we get in the spring. Like, if you would have told me this was going to happen Memorial Day weekend, I would have said, oh, that's a shocker. It feels like this is every Memorial Day weekend. But when we've been in this drought, it just felt, like you said, it felt weird. It didn't feel normal. But then you think, like, well, the drought was the abnormality. This is actually kind of more typical for our area.
Yeah, it is. And it's a bummer that it happened over the holiday weekend. It's not
bad time.
Fun. It would be nice if it happened in the middle of the week sometime. But, we can't change it. It's not just us. The New England was terrible. A lot of people were terrible.
That's all I heard about was one of our coworkers was up in New York and said it was freezing and wet. And I was like, well, I've been in that living up north. Sometimes Memorial Day can be 90, some days, sometimes it can be 60. There's not a lot of in-between sometimes up there. Speaking of weather across the country, we had some wild weather in the south as well, not just here. There was a rogue little tornado touched down in parts of Alabama near Dothan. Some of the damage was pretty extensive, Tim. And I know you probably saw this because our colleagues, the local TV station there was on the air live covering this tornado, which you and I have both done. You have had this unfortunate experience as well of your building actually being impacted by a tornado. This station was actually impacted by a tornado while they were covering it as well and had damage to their building. Talk a little bit about that. Folks might not remember that tornado that impacted you guys while you were tracking it on the air.
Yeah, so I think these guys down there in Dothan last night, they probably had a tougher time than we did a couple years ago. But that's a scary thing. If you see a tornado and you're broadcasting and you're getting folks ready, if you see it getting uncomfortably close to your studio, what do? Well, what we did our time, this was back in 2018, I guess, so it was about 8 years ago now. We kept on broadcasting, but I told everyone, the whole building, you got to get in the hallway. We've got these little tornado stickers in our hallways, as I zoom out dramatically here. But in any case, that's where we shelter ourselves, just because we have cinder blocks. And so we kept going over there. Now, we were pretty lucky. Our building didn't suffer any damage. It was close enough to have us real nervous. The power flickered badly, all that stuff. It was just about a half mile down the road that had the damage. But in this case, Alabama last night, it looked like they had windows blown in at the station, all sorts of issues. And you saw there with the homes, that was bad stuff.
Yeah, and what was really interesting about that tornado, like it was here today, Tim, it really wasn't a tornado environment, but they had a little MCV, what we call it, a mesoscale convective vortex. It provided enough spin for this rogue little cell to just spin up a quick tornado. I haven't seen the damage survey, James. Have you seen it was EF1, maybe EF2?
I'll try to check real fast.
I'm kind of curious because some of those brick homes look pretty. That's a pretty sturdy home right there. That
sturdy. Yeah, it is.
That looks like EF2 damage at least. So yeah, it was kind of a rogue storm, and you always got to be careful of those. A day like today, you don't expect a tornado, but you could get clashing outflow boundaries or like some kind of little disturbance. In general, these can sneak up on you quick, and it's always a good idea that you have a way to get these warnings. And kudos to that station; they were all over it, Tim. They seemed like they were prepared for this pretty quickly because to be on the air during that and keep broadcasting was a great job, because I'm sure a lot of folks were paying attention to them, especially in this day and age, probably streaming them like we do all the time here.
Well, that's what we say. Take us with you. You get to the safe place and just pop us up on the phone. It is so easy now to just keep you can just open either one of our apps right now, and it's in your face, the live stream right at the top. You don't even have to click the button. It's just right there. So glad we haven't had to do that much this spring up here, but hate to see that damage down there in Alabama.
I do not have an official answer from the weather.
No
service
official
yet.
answer. Okay, so I'll have to look, because I think they might be still surveying it. Before we run out of time here, Tim, the pattern going forward. So this week, I don't want to eliminate rain chances, but it looks a little drier, like maybe more isolated storms this week, kind of hot and humid. But I'm really fascinated about this weekend pattern going into June. There's a massive backdoor cold front that comes down, and we're going to be pretty chilly for early June next week. I was looking at what we call the precipitable water. We call it atmospheric moisture. What's really fascinating, Tim, is you see this big plume of tropical moisture coming up, but you also see all this dry air coming in from eastern Canada. And to our south, there's probably going to be super heavy rain in Florida and Georgia. But for us, we might end up on the cooler, somewhat drier part of this setup.
It's going to be wacky to see this play out. You mean lows in the 50s at least, I would say.
Yeah.
And then the question would be, how long does that stick around? You have a big, stout boundary like that. Does any mischief pop up along it?
Yes.
Could you get a subtropical storm offshore? Anything like that? All within the cards.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer. I do know I'm going to the beach this weekend, and I'm worried. So we'll see what happens about
you
that.
make such a good point.
Who knows?
It's a wild pattern. There's our hints of subtropical something in there. So stay tuned. Our weather has gone from drought and boring to pretty active here as we go into summer. Who would have thought?
That's right. I know. It all comes around.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We're out of time for tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.